Welcome to the Fall Podcast. Today is Tuesday, June 16th, I believe. It is, June 16th, 2020. And welcome to the Fall Podcast. Again, I just said that like 3 seconds ago.
That's all right.
What the hell? It is Tuesday, though. What's going on, man?
Oh, I wish I could say not a lot, but it seems like since I got back from Montana, like the switch has flipped and I've been busy every day. I don't know what changed, but I like
it. It's busy season, and that's good to be busy, especially on your end too. I mean, you're you got a couple things going for employment, which is good, and you're grinding and staying forward and haven't skipped a beat, so that's good. But talking about Montana, I want to hear about your Montana bear trip. I literally have not heard anything about it other than I think I know what the outcome was, but I don't think anybody else might. So let's get into that a little bit. I got an update after this, and we won't take this too long for everybody out there thinking, oh, shit, they're going to get into a big dissertation here. But quickly, we'll get into this, kind of give everybody an update, and then we'll get to this interview. But Montana, how'd it go?
Yeah, this won't take long. We didn't see a single bear in 5 days of hunting. We walked just under 40 miles altogether. And we hunted 3 different tracts of public land out there, like all in the Gallatin National Forest. But, we set up camp 3 different times, and we never saw a single bear, black or grizzly. We saw,
that's crazy.
I don't know, 1,000 elk, probably 50 or so mule deer. And there was one day that we saw 5 bull moose, and then a cow and a calf, all on the same day.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's a lot of bull moose.
Yeah, well, holy shit is right, because we saw the 5 all from a distance, which was cool. And then we were walking back to the truck that night, and there was this little horse trail that cut off a switchback, like on this Forest Service road. It was like half a mile from the truck. Very close to where I saw that grizzly last year. Same place, same trail. And we're walking, and it's like that time of the night where you can tell there's an animal there, like you make out shapes and colors, but you're not really sure what it is. Kind of that past shooting light, past camera light, like your mind takes over and tells you it's going to kill you, whatever it is. And we're walking down. We took that cut off on the switchback to get to the truck sooner, and we're walking past this aspen thicket, like little pecker poles, and I hear sticks breaking. And I look over, and I just see like this dark shadow stand up. It's only like 50 yards away. And I'm shooting a lever action 35 on this hunt, so I roll the hammer back, and I'm like, fuck me, here we go. And like, it was weird. Like, I put my hand out, like Allie was behind me, and I just I'm like, hold on, back up. I couldn't tell what it was yet. And she starts freaking out, like, oh my God. And nothing happens for a second, and I was like, I pull my phone out. And I start rolling video, and I'm like, hold this as we walk away. And she's like, are you kidding me? Like, you want a video, whatever? I'm like, yes, because if I shoot whatever this thing is, like, we've got to have evidence. Whatever happens here, like, if nothing happens, that's the ideal situation. But if we're about to kill a grizzly or something, like, at least there's video of what happened. Right or wrong, here's how it went down. And she's like, oh my God, and it's funny, I haven't sent you the video, but it ended up being a cow, moose, and a calf, and which is probably just as, dangerous as coming across a grizzly that time of the night. But anyway, I roll the hammer back. I hear that stick break, and I roll the hammer back, and I'm just like, back up. And then I could tell it's a calf, and I get the profile of it. And Allie's like, it's a horse. It's a loose horse. I'm like, no, it's not. It's a moose. She's like, no, it's not. It's a horse. And I'm like, so this horse like falls back over the hill, and then another one stands up and comes to the edge of the trees to confront us. And I'm like, back up fast. Like, this is a 2-year-old calf with its mother, and we're lucky it's not a newborn. Like, she's done this before, and she's warning us, like, let's get the hell out of here. So we ended up, we took about, 30 yards back up that little cutoff, and then we swung out wide. And Allie's still rolling video on my cell phone, and you can hear her, like, and then she's like, oh my God, I can't breathe. she's talking to herself saying, I can't breathe. And
that's funny.
It was kind of unnerving, but obviously we came out unscathed, and that was kind of the highlight of the trip. But that was also the same piece of public land, and we ran into a guy earlier that morning, another hunter from Washington State, and he'd been there for 2 weeks and hadn't seen a single black bear yet. He saw one grizz, and then that morning, actually, he heard a bunch of shooting and guys yelling. And, like, he thought they might have shot a black bear and were, like, celebrating, and they were just, like, hooting and hollering. And he said, like, wasn't 10 minutes later, they came running down the trail into his camp, and they actually shot off a grizzly. They encountered a big boar grizzly, and the guys had fired warning shots off and got their asses out of there. And I was like, all right, well,
wow.
No black bears from the guy in 2 weeks, and they just shot off a grizzly. We'll go somewhere else.
Yeah, no kidding. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And just until we get back onto this, but if everybody hears something going on right now in the microphone, my wife just kicked on the vacuum upstairs, literally right above me. So if you hear this weird noise, it's her vacuuming, and she should be done here soon. But I'm just going to keep rolling with this. Who gives a shit, I guess.
Yeah.
No, so what did you think? Why weren't you seeing bears? Like,
I have no idea.
I mean, obviously you weren't the only one not seeing them, but were they not, was the hibernation, were they not coming out of hibernation like they should be, or, was it cold? What was the deal?
No, it was great. I mean, the weather was perfect. I mean, it was the day we got there, the first day of our hunt was like 80 degrees. So, I mean, the hunting sucked because it was so hot. Like, we would just go out. We'd go out the last 2 or 3 hours of the day, like, and get to the prime location for prime time. And then we have, a 2-mile walk back at dusk or in the dark, which was, puckering, to say the least. And
yes.
I really don't know. I mean, I don't know what to say about it. Like, bears were definitely out of hibernation. I mean, grizzlies were out with their cubs. People were getting pictures. We heard reports of a lady who had rented a forestry cabin, and she got pictures of 6 different grizzlies in one day, all on this same piece where we were hunting, where we saw those moose. And it was like, and the grizzlies come out of, like, the super, super high country. Like, the black bears will den up, under someone's porch or in a log or, whatever. They're a lot lower elevation. So it's like the grizzlies are out, but where the hell are all the black bears? And I talked to a buddy that works at Kennetrek. He said even, like, the Stone Glacier and Sitka guys, they've only killed, like, 1 apiece. And then Jana Waller, Skullbound TV, she lives in Bozeman, and she has yet to see more than 2 bears all season. She's seen sows and cubs, and that's it. And I don't know. Like, she said there's a lot of double cubs this year, it seems like. So maybe there's not that many sows in heat for this season, for this year. But that also could mean that's what the boars are killing and eating, is those cubs. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. There's no berries out yet.
That's weird.
The wildflowers are just starting to pop. There's a ton of green grass everywhere, so, like, it could have thinned them out. But, I mean, we covered 40 miles, and we looked over a ton of country. I mean, I don't know where else you can go and see 5 bull moose in a day.
Yeah, geez.
Like,
do you think you were a touch early?
I think we were late, to be honest with you.
Late? Okay.
Yeah. That's my guess, is, like, it was so green that they were just thinned out. They weren't concentrated anywhere. But, it's not like we were looking at one little food plot and, waiting. We could see for miles. Like, we glassed for hours at a time and never saw a single bear in 40 miles of hiking. I don't understand it.
That's wild. Wild.
Yeah.
Huh.
But anyway, I think it's good in the fall. If for some reason I end up back out there, we'll see what happens. But I'm not going to push it.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yep, for sure. Well, that's good. I mean, you guys got out a little bit, got out of the state of Iowa, and got some things going on. So
yeah,
that's good. On my front, last Thursday, it was, Keegan came over, and I wanted to do some farm work on the whitetail farm, and I did a plot last year. I think we talked about it in previous podcasts. I did a plot on the 1 acre farm that I established it last year. It came up really good. Well, it's on the edge of an ag field, so it's deer were coming into it in daylight, but not like I wanted to. So this year I decided to do some plot screen. So that's what we did last Thursday. We went in there and I worked it up. I didn't spray. There wasn't a ton of weeds in it, and it wasn't getting overtaken yet. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to spray. I'm just going to work it up real good, go over it a couple times, and then whatever happens, happens kind of thing. Because my biggest thing, and like you know, is I just try to not do as many trips as I can to get as much done in a day as I can.
Yeah.
So I went back there and worked it up and planted about a 6-foot swath, dividing the food plot to the field in this Border Patrol. It's Killer Food Plots Blend Border Patrol. I've heard really good things about it. It's supposed to get 8 to 12 foot high. Wow. It requires 8 to 10 to possibly 12 hours of direct sunlight a day. Jeez. Which in the spot where I put it, it is going to get sun like all day, basically. So that's good. I'm going to wait till it gets about probably shin to knee high, and then I'm going to hit it with a whole bunch of nitrogen, and just hopefully it boosts up from there. That's what I'm hoping.
Stuff needs a lot of nitrogen.
Yeah, and that's the things I've been reading too, and I got a good buddy out in Missouri, which we're going to get him on the podcast. He's a whitetail. He works for Whitetail Properties, but he's a land manager, one of their big land managers for them. Real good dude. He told me to go in there like basically, 6 to 12 inches high and literally hit it with nitrogen and make the ground look like it's white. Yep. Just like you can't put enough on it. Yep. And just let it go. And so I'm excited about that. Actually, I planted. It was probably around noon, 1 o'clock, and then by 5 o'clock that evening, it was already raining on it, and it got a good raining on it. So nice. I'm excited about that because it's looking like we're not supposed to get any rain for the next week. So it did get a good wash. So
good.
We'll see. I hope. I hung a stand there as well, a new stand, trimmed it out. So that's dialed, ready to go. I mean, you could hunt it tomorrow if you want. So that's awesome. I'm getting there. My checklist is almost done. I got a few more things to do, but other than that, I feel good about it.
Nice. No, that's a great little setup. We used to. Yep. I filmed a lot with Bill with Midwest Whitetail a couple years ago, and obviously he uses that plot screen from Frigid Forage, and that stuff is incredible. How fast it grows and how big it actually gets. It's crazy.
That's what everybody's been telling me, too. Like I said, I've never planted it before, but a lot of people say when it takes off, it goes quick.
Yeah.
And in the right scenario. And it's really good soil right there. And it was, when I worked it up, it was it was moist. It wasn't like saturated wet or like loamy ground or nothing like that. It was moist. So it got some good, moistness to it, I guess. But then it rained.
You just said moist.
It rained. I did, and a lot of people don't like that word. It's moist.
Yeah.
But and it rained. I worked it in about a half inch. I raked it all in, and then it rained on it. So hopefully it'll just shoot up.
Oh,
we'll see.
It'll go. That stuff gets taller than a corn stalk, like in August. It's nuts.
I'm hoping it gets that tall. That'd be sweet. In all honesty, I only need it about 6 foot tall, because it's kind of in a lower area anyway, and I just need it at least 6 foot tall. If that'll and thick. If that works, then I'll be happy. So
you'll get that, no doubt.
Let's hope so. But well, I said we weren't going to do a long dissertation, which this wasn't too long, 14 or 15 minutes. But today, I say we jump over this interview. We've got Jabo Moore on from Georgia. Well, North Georgia, North Alabama. That range. Cool interview with him. We haven't had a guy on from the South, really, like from Georgia, Alabama area, but it's really cool to hear what he does and how he does things down there. So,
yeah, it's definitely a lot different. I mean, it's the talk about salt marshes and what it sounds. To me, like at the end of the conversation, like it almost sounds like he's applying a lot of these techniques like that you would see like with urban hunters, like identify the quality and then pick the exact right time to go hunt it. Like they're not backyard bucks by any means. He's hunting big tracts of land, but it's it's interesting to hear how actually just having kids changed the way he hunts. And what kind of made me raise my eyebrow is the fact that he was actually more successful once he started doing this.
Yeah, that's the big thing, and we'll get into that. You know, when he got married and started having kids, he really had to change how he hunted. And once he did that, his success rate went up like by tenfold. So we'll get into that. I don't want to say anything anymore to that, but I know I agree 100% on that. So I say we kick it over there, man. What do you think?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, let's kick it over to that interview. Thank you, everybody, for listening and downloading and all the support. And please go to iTunes, leave a 5-star rating, and leave a review. So thank you very much, and we'll see you guys right back here next week on the Fall Podcast. All right, welcome back to the Fall Podcast, and today we are traveling south. We have a Southern boy on, even farther south than Kentucky with Josh Profit. We have Jabo Moore on today. Jabo, welcome to the podcast, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, bud. I appreciate you doing this, and I'm interested to get into this phone call. I know Justin is as well, because we haven't done. I mean, Justin really either. I mean, him and I have both been in Texas, did that kind of hunting thing, and I guess I can't speak for any other states. Justin, have you hunted any other southern states?
I have not hunted in them. I've filmed. I filmed in Kentucky. I hog hunted in Georgia, in Smithville, Georgia, and then. That's about it.
There it is.
Yeah, that's it.
There it is.
There it is.
I have filmed turkeys in Tennessee, so that's about as far south as we go. So I'm excited to have you on, man.
You're the only 10 I see.
Kaboom, doom, tish. No, man, but it was good. I'm glad to have you on here and get into this. But first question is, I want to get everybody that's listening to this familiar with who you are. So who are you? Where are you from? And what do you do for a living?
My name's Jabo Moore. I'm 32 years old, married with 2 kids, 2 little boys. Originally from North Georgia. I now live North Alabama, which is like 10 minutes across the line. I work for a medical supply company. We do surgical tubing, but other than that, I love to hunt. That's my hobby, my lifestyle.
I gotcha. Definitely. Are you? I gotta ask. Are you a Georgia Bulldog or you Roll Tide?
Roll Tide.
Really? Roll Tide. So you're
Yes,
you're an Alabama fan. Okay. All right. I can commend that.
Well, what's funny, my oldest little boy now, he's with my wife's family and everything. They're either Auburn or Alabama.
Oh wow! So you're a house divided.
Oh yeah, my little boy now, his cousins and aunts have converted him to an Auburn fan. So, which that's fine. I guess I'm a little different than most Southern. I don't care. I'm not a huge got to watch football every single Saturday. I'd rather be in the woods.
Yep, I get it, man. Definitely. Well, let's kick this off. I mean, you and I were kind of talking, and we were talking about, you mentioned, you have 2 little boys that do a lot of hunting with you. You're a family man, and we kind of talked about something that kind of like got brought up to me that like kind of registered and light bulb moment in my head was that, before you were married, you hunted a certain way, and then when you got married, you had to switch it up a lot, and you found that was more successful than how you were doing it previously. So let's kick it off there. I mean, so let's go pre-marriage. I mean, what was your whole deal? Like how did you hunt? What was your, were you in the field all the time, or was it, one of those things that, you just got out when you could?
Before I got married, I honestly probably hunt at least 6, if not 7 days a week. But where I hunted there's a bunch of little wood lots in between houses. Like, we're out in the country, so it's not all the houses are right next to each other, but there's little wood lots, 5-acre wood lot, 10-acre wood lot. And I would just hunt different wood lots throughout the week. Didn't really rely on trail cameras because I was out there all the time. Well, then once I got married, funny story, I actually killed a deer on my wedding day. and was almost late for pictures because I had to take it to the processor.
That's phenomenal.
But after I got married, I worked third shift, newlywed, still was trying to hunt that 6-7 days a week. And I mean, that just, I wasn't being a good husband. My wife, it was, taking a toll on her. And so I had to back up and realize, I've got to spend time at home, but I'm still going to hunt. So I kind of changed my strategy to where I really got into trail cameras. I really started focusing my time, I guess, differently on how I scouted. Instead of being in a tree, I may scout from a distance. And it really, like the very first year, it really, really paid off. And it's now, even to now, I mean, I may hunt 6 days out of the month, but I may kill a deer, 3, 4, 5 deer out of those 6 trips.
I gotcha.
Quality hunts, not quantity hunts.
Yes, sir.
For sure. Yep.
Yep.
I guess to back up a little bit too, I've been to Georgia a couple times, but mainly for weddings. What is your terrain like there?
I'm in very northeast corner. Let's see, northeast corner of Alabama and northwest corner of Georgia. So we got a lot of mountain ranges, and you either hunt on top of the mountain or the side of the mountain, really. And so me personally, I was talking to my buddy DJ, we have recently started filming our hunts and stuff, and he kind of stepped in as a cameraman. So I was talking to him a little bit earlier today, and I hunt a little different than people. I hear a lot about, finding the buck beds, getting in there tight to the buck beds, or finding where they're just crushing the food source. I hunt more staging areas.
Okay.
Like I do get kind of close to the beds, but then I also, what I've noticed, like here in the South, normally these deer will not come out, or your big deer will not come out into the food source, before dark.
Yep.
So the way I've started running my trail cameras, the way I've started learning is, okay, I've got him in a food source here, say at 10 o'clock at night. All right. I kind of try to figure out which way he's coming into that food source. Well, then I find, I may find a trail or an idea of where he's coming from. I'll go in the woods 100 yards, put another camera. All right, now where's he going? If I get him on there, which way is he going? And I'll just kind of back it in until I find a pretty good staging area where, hey, he's showing up here 30 minutes before dark. Or here recently, most of my deer that I've killed is midday, especially around the rut. It's between 12 and 2 o'clock.
Really? Okay. So when's your guys' rut falling again? Is it a little later than up here in the north?
Oh yeah, our rut normally is. It's funny how it all works. North Georgia is around the middle of December, to where North Alabama may be more around the first of the year.
Oh wow!
And we're talking about, it could be 30 miles, and there's that big of a difference.
Wow. I did not expect the first of the year. I was thinking December, early December to Christmas, because, I mean, when we were down in Texas, Justin, it was more like right around Christmas, wasn't it, or right before it?
Yeah, those 10 days right before Christmas was always, in my opinion, the best rut hunt in Texas, where we were at anyway.
West Texas. For sure. And it's definitely all, relative to where you're at. I get that. But so you're doing like a backtrack method, which I've heard of a lot of guys doing with the cameras. That's a very effective method, definitely. I haven't heard a lot of guys doing it, but when you're backtracking, let's say you go off the food source like 100 yards or so, or however far in the timber, you pick him up again. Like, now this takes some time though. Like, I would think, let's say you get him on a food source, you move in, put a camera out. I mean, are you going back the next day to check that, to try to stay on, or is it like a cell cam you're using? Like, how are you trying to monitor that with all your scent control and your pressure that you could be putting on the farm?
So with the woodlots, from my take, with the woodlots, the deer are not as skittish, I would say, with humans. But now I am a total scent freak. And I've been aggravating DJ about, look, if you're going to film me, you're going to have to be a scent freak. So I even went as far as I bought ozonics. I bought all kinds of stuff to help cover our scent, because I am a total, my dad was this way. That's who's taught me how to hunt was, be as scent free as possible. I never wear my clothes, even in my vehicle. They're always in a scent free bag. No matter what, I will always take a shower before I ever step in the woods, spray down, wipe everything down. But now, as far as normally, it kind of depends on the deer and the situation. That's why, like, my scouting has changed. Instead of hunting all the time, I may back in the woods a little bit at a time to hunt. Now I put a camera out. It may be a week, it may be 2 weeks. It just kind of depends on the deer and the situation.
I gotcha.
Or my available time.
Yep.
Also.
Yeah, definitely. And so you're trying to find this staging area, which staging area could be a lot of different things. So, like, to kind of paint a picture for the audio version of the listening to this, I mean, what is a staging area that when you find it? Like, what are you looking at that you're like, okay, this is where the deer are hanging out before they go out to the major food source at night? Like, what are you looking at? What's the perfect, staging area that you see?
Either acorns or persimmons. A lot of my staging areas is early season. Now, the rut, of course, you're just going to try to find, the biggest concentration of does, or I'm a huge mock scrape believer when it comes to rut. But as far as the staging areas, it's more early season, and, acorns are dropping, or if I find a pretty good little batch of persimmon trees, those are kind of my go-to signs. And, like, when I'm walking through a property, I don't know, August, and start, looking at treetops, trying to find out where these acorns are falling, or if it is September and I walk in and, man, these deer have just tore this up, immediately there's going to be a camera in there to see what time are they coming into these staging areas.
Yeah, and so the persimmons, and there was 2 podcasts ago, Justin, we were talking about persimmons with, I think it was Josh or something like that, Josh or Greg, one of the two.
Yep.
We don't have persimmons up here that I know of. I mean, the only time I've saw persimmons were down in Kansas, and it seems like, when that first, like, cold hits, like, they're basically done. That, from my experience, I don't know if that's, like, scientifically proven, but, like, from what I can see, they're only ripe until, like, it gets like a frost, I guess. And a lot of people can correct me if I'm wrong, but the persimmons, are deer preferring those persimmons over the acorns, or is it more of like just whatever they can find, 50-50? Or, like, if you have a pile of persimmons and a pile of acorns, I mean, what are they taking?
It depends on the year. I mean, it depends. These persimmons are sweet, and more times than not, I've noticed that they'll hit the persimmons a little more. But then there's other years, like the past couple of years, our acorn crop's kind of been, I don't know, mediocre, and you'll have, like, batches, like a few trees that are really dropping, and then you may have another 200 yards of there ain't a tree dropping anywhere.
I got you. Okay, so that makes sense. I mean, so you're backtracking to find out where this deer's coming from. So has it been so, like, clear cut, dry, like when you find him on camera, in a staging area, you hang a stand, go in and kill? Has it been that easy? Like, you talk, like, you hear a lot of guys like, oh yeah, just hung a stand, went in there, he walked by me and killed him. Like, was it that easy, or is there a little more work to it and a little more thought out process?
Yeah, it's deer hunting.
Right.
Nothing's
easy.
You always want it to be as just that, oh yeah, I just walked in, hung a stand, he come walking by, I shot him. But no. And a lot of my early season, that's when I thin the does out. Like, that's when I fill freezers. We've made jokes, like this little group that I'm with now within range. We've made groups about, let's say who's going to kill the most deer. And even DJ, my cameraman's like, y'all do not want to do this. Because early season, if it's a doe and she doesn't have a fawn, my question, why does she not have a fawn? Like, if she's a mature doe and she doesn't have a fawn, why? And then if you shoot them late season, to me, you're shooting your bred does. And like around here, we don't have just humongous, amounts of deer. I say that. Now, there's times that we can go in the woods and see a ton of deer, but when I travel out of state, like I went to Ohio this year, I don't ever see that many deer. Like when I come back home, it's almost depressing to go sit in the woods because it's like, well, I'm going to see 2 or 3 deer. Where in Ohio, I may see 30.
Yep.
But
I got you. So you're a proponent of like shooting does then, right? I mean, you're all for, we need to thin the deer herd and the does just to, get that ratio back in check.
Oh yeah. Now, I'm a Kip Campbell. If she walks by me and just looks like she needs shot, I'm going to shoot her.
What's he say? You're on the gravy train with biscuit wheels.
Yeah.
I am. But I grew up at school and everything. Everybody's always joking. If you want to eat good, go to Jabo's house, because we ate a ton of deer meat or turkey or hogs. We didn't go to the store for our meat. Me and my dad, we may average 20, 25 deer a year.
Wow.
Jeez.
How many bucks can you guys kill a year per person?
In Georgia, you're only allowed 2 bucks and 10 does.
Okay.
Alabama, when I was growing up, was a deer a day.
Doesn't matter antlers or nothing?
Doesn't matter.
Holy shit.
Now Alabama is 3 bucks, and in my zone in Alabama, I could shoot a doe a day, and the season's open for basically 120 days.
Okay, so you can kill a deer a day there. Depending on, can't kill a buck, you only kill 3, right? So and that's still a lot of bucks. I mean, we got 2. You can kill 2 bucks here in Michigan, in my opinion. I mean, I want it to be 1 buck. Like, yep. That's me being selfish, but I want it to be 1 buck rule, and that's it.
Which I'm kind of selfish too. I'm a bow hunter, and I wish Georgia and Alabama both would go bow only with just a very, maybe a week, 2-week gun season. But I totally understand, and like all my other buddies that hunt, they're gun hunters. Of all my buddies, there's one gentleman that I know that is a strictly bow only hunter. And now myself, I'm a bow only unless my little boy goes with me. And that's like last Thanksgiving, we killed a 6.5-year-old 80-inch 8-pointer out of a blind just because, 1, it's the deer we want to take it off the farm, and 2, my little boy was with me.
Yep. He was 6.5?
Yes. And it was like 80 inches.
Dang.
Holy cow. Now, is that a deer you're thinking is like, could be on the decline, or is that just kind of the genetics that you got rolling around?
Well, it all depends. Like this deer, he actually, like 4.5, 5.5, he never changed. 6.5, he dropped just a little bit. But he was a bully. Like when he walked up in front of the camera, Georgia and Alabama, we're allowed to feed. So like, he'd walk into the camera and just, nose down, run everything off, sit there and eat, and then he'd walk out. And he's like, I'm interested to see. I got drawn for Kansas this year, which is the first time I'm ever going to Kansas. And all I hear about is how big these bodied deer are. So, and for instance, the deer I shot in Ohio this year, he probably went 230, 240. And that is a monster deer for me, because a big deer around here is 200 pounds.
Yep.
Well, 230, 240 is a big deer anywhere.
That's yeah, that's a giant deer.
And the deer that I shot my son, now he probably did go 210. And I've actually got a picture when my little boy sitting behind him, and he looks like a monster, especially around here. And all my buddies at work and stuff, they're like, man, that is a huge body deer. Just because they know that they're not that big around here.
Yep. Yeah, my Iowa buck last year was 7.5 years old, and on the hoof he was right at 200 pounds.
Yeah,
at 7.5. Justin, what was your bucks? Do you remember?
Oh, I tell you the truth, I don't think I've weighed a deer since I left New York. I just know how much sweat it took to move him, and then The one I shot my first year here in Iowa, I'm confident in saying it was as big, if not bigger body than the one I shot in Saskatchewan.
And that was a giant deer.
That one I shot here was, it was a tank. It was like, you ever tried to move a dead bear? Like there's nothing to hold on to. It's just a big.
You can't move a dead bear.
Nothing. Dude, you can't. That's how I felt about that deer. There was 4 of us that had 3 buddies that showed up, telling me to get that deer out that night, and it was hell.
Oh yeah, I totally get it, man. Then trying to lift him in the back of the truck, even with 2 guys, like it's a big deal.
And it really puts it in perspective when you can just walk up and like Cam Haynes this thing on your shoulder, be like, "Well, that's a baby. I screwed up."
Yeah, that's like my Ohio deer. I'm only 5'8", 5'9", 160 pounds, and I had to drag that Ohio deer off a ridge, through a creek, all the way out about, 900 to 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
And when I finally got him to where I could get the side-by-side to him, I just hit my knees and thanked the Lord that it was over.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, the hunting public did a video this year where they packed one out because they were just so far away. I'm like, shit, I'm doing that every time. If I'm in public land and have to by myself, like, I am not too proud to quarter that thing right there and hang it and make 2 trips. I'm good. Take the pictures you need, and it's not the same. You don't get to have your buddies and be like, oogle over the thing in the back of the truck, but it's like, let's get this done. Let's get it out of here.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if you got the right pack, it does not take long to quarter up a deer. Just to get it in and get it in a pack and get it in some bags or meat sacks or something like that. Quarter up a deer you can do by yourself really quick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, cool, man. I mean, so you're hunting staging areas. You're down in the south where it's hotter than the hinges of Haiti. I mean, you are. I mean, I bet you every time you go out, you're probably not getting any cooler temps than probably until end of November into December, or might even be later than that.
Yeah, middle of November it'll kind of slack off. It'll start tapering down. But like our rut, that's, for instance, this year, my absolute best spot on this farm, I only hunted it one time, and that was December 11th because we was going to have a light snow. So I checked all my cameras. I've already got my mock scrapes out for the rut. I had these bucks showing up right at daylight, or I might have an occasional 1 o'clock just deer walk right through the mock scrape. And so that the 10th, I left work, went straight and took a shower, ran up to where I would be hunting, hung a lock on, put my bow hang. I got it completely ready to where all I had to do was step in the stand that next morning, and got in there that morning. Luckily, went back up my boss. Got to shout him out here. He is not a hunter, but he totally understands that that's what I love to do. So I called him that night. And I'm like, hey, I'm going hunting in the morning. He lets me take off. Crawl in the stand. I seen 29 deer that day, but I hunt all day. And at 4 o'clock, the one buck that we have on camera that's a shooter, I shot him at 17 yards.
Holy cow. So were you in a staging area then when that happened?
There's a big, huge stick, probably 10-year-old clear cut. And then I'm up under a bluff, like big rock wall, to where they've only got certain places they can go up and down. So I'm kind of like right in between their bedding and where they're going up this mountain to potentially eat. The neighbor has lots of food plots on top, and I have actually found where they're coming up and down. So they just kind of stage right there until they go on up to the food source.
Is it more of like with a natural funnel, like you're kind of pinching deer down right there? It sounds like with the the rock wall and stuff like that. So you're kind of right in the middle of like a like an hourglass kind of deal.
Yep,
I got you.
Yep. Between pinch points and staging areas, that's how my dad taught me to hunt. And luckily for me, he was a very good hunter. He doesn't hunt anymore, but that's his best friend is who I hunt with all the time.
Okay. So are you a mobile guy? Are you hunting mobile? This stand, it sounds like it was pre-hung, but like, are you a mobile guy, or is it like I'm pre-hanging stands, then if I need to get mobile, I'll get mobile?
Both. Yeah, both. I've got several, from years experience on the farm. I've got several lock-ons throughout the farm, but then just like this, I have a lock-on right there. But where I need to be to shoot these deer with, their travel pattern does change slightly. And like where I needed to be to shoot this buck was 60 yards from where my normal lock-on is. So I took my mobile stand in, and that's what I hung it up that night before.
I gotcha. So I guess one thing I have, and I'm, question that I'm interested in too, is like we were talking about the heat just a little bit ago and the warm weather. What are some things that you have to do to hunt in that warmer weather? I mean, if it's not like any bit of like remotely cool here or in the north or whatever, it's kind of actually hard to go hunting. You know what I mean? It's like, man, your mind gets the best of it, and you're like, the deer aren't going to be moving, like it's just one of those mind games sometimes, but like it's warm or hot most of the time down there for you. So like, is that a mind game for you, or is that just like, this is what I got, there's the cards I'm dealt, I'm going hunting regardless?
More of that mindset. Yeah. I'm all about mental type guy, that I believe you can mentally get over anything. So whenever I see, all right, these deer are coming through here at this time, I've got to be in the stand. I don't care how hot it is. I'm going to shoot a deer.
Yep. Now, are you changing anything as far as like, I need to get closer to where you think they're bedded? Just because they're probably not going to get up until that last little bit of light, or is it like, I have confidence in my cameras and the data I'm getting, and is it more like I don't need to be close to bedding?
It's more, based off the data, and these deer, honestly, the heat, now it does affect them, kind of into October, 1st of November, I think. But then again, you're talking about like an October lull for the Midwest. We kind of see that, but it's more when the bachelor groups break up. But when these bachelor groups are together early season, I mean, the heat, from my experience, where I'm hunting, especially these staging areas, it don't really bother them.
I see. Yeah, and I guess, with the deer living there all the time and used to that climate, deer, they adapt and everything. I mean, whitetails, I feel like they're one of the better animals that can adapt to just about anything, I think. Because, you see deer, like Justin said, he was up in Saskatchewan where it is like brutally cold, and, they have to adapt to that all the way down to Florida, where it is like you're on the face of the sun basically in the fall, I feel like. But
yeah, and that's like, even right now on my cameras, I've already got my cameras out. I've had them out for, I don't know, over a month now, just to watch the growth period. Right now, I've got a group of 5 bachelor bucks. You can almost, it's almost clockwork. 1 to 2 p.m., they're standing in front of the camera at a food source. And that's the hottest part of the day for us.
Yeah, definitely, especially right now. I mean, midsummer, or not midsummer, but get into the heart of the summer. Justin, do you have something to say there? You were going to add something?
Yeah, I was actually just trying to look up the name of this I was actually going to talk about. There is like a scientific name for the relationship between body size and geography. Like, take a whitetail in Saskatchewan compared to a whitetail in Georgia of the same age. There's obviously a significant difference, but it has to do with climate. It's pretty intuitive, but there is a word for it. That's all I was going to say. And I was trying to look it up, but I can't find it.
I gotcha. No, you were talking about the October lull there. So this is something Justin and I have kind of brushed on before, and there's all these theories about the October lull. Do I think there's an October lull? Honestly, I'm on the fence with it. Like, I've killed some pretty good bucks in that quote-unquote October lull. What October lull to me, I feel like is like, deer are starting to, hunting starts October 1st here, and deer just like getting pushed around a little bit and probably hunkering down because of all the pressure that's been in the timber, which they haven't had all year. So I think they kind of hold up possibly. But I mean, deer are moving. Deer are moving somewhere. You just got to find them kind of deal. So like how you talked about the rut being so late for you guys, I mean, do you guys have an October lull in October, or is it like a little later, or or is which? I guess first of all, what is your opinion on October lull? Do you think there is one, or is it just all a bunch of BS?
Me personally, I agree with you. I don't think there's an October lull. I think everybody's had all summer to scout, if they even scout. That's, to me, there's so many hunters that, hey, it's opening day, I'm going in the woods. And that's fine. I hope you kill a good one. And if you do, I'm going to be the first one to congratulate you. But the ones that put their homework in, they're the ones seeing deer early season, consistently. Like you touched on right there. Once hunters start entering the timber, in and out of these food sources, their scent's going out there, I do believe the deer move, and therefore their pattern changes. So everybody around here, my October lull situation would be like you. They're still moving. You've just got to now go back and refine them. And then your bachelor group of bucks are breaking up. They're kind of going, to their own home turf, I guess you would say. So they're there, but they've changed again. So now you've got to go find, I had these 5 bachelor bucks. This one went over here. This one's over here. You've got to figure out which one that you truly want to go after. And, no, to me, there is no October lull. You've just got to put in the time to figure out where they're at. They're still moving. Right.
And I agree wholeheartedly. Justin, what's your take on that? I don't know if you and I talked about this in a while. What's your take on the lull?
I think there is like a set of variables that does change what a buck does in that middle of October, biologically. But I'm with you guys. Like, they don't just hunker down and not move for 2 weeks. Like, they're doing something. It's just not what they'd been doing prior to that time, or what you expect they should be doing, given that it's pre-rut. Like, there's that. I mean, a lull is the perfect word to describe it, because it's not like they all died or disappeared or they're only nocturnal. There are some lunar factors, I think, that play into that, because it happens roughly the same time every year. But bucks have already broken up by then, so it's not that. This is the time when scrapes and rubs really start to pop up. So you start seeing them kind of define that range that they're going to defend. But at the same time, in the rut, a buck can come from 30 miles away. There's nothing to really. They don't stay there. So I'm with you. I wouldn't call it a lull, or to say that it's like a freeze up, I guess, of deer movement. There is a downturn in activity, but it doesn't mean they're gone. You just got to figure out what changed and where they went.
Yep. We should come up with a name for it and brand it as our own. We really should. Because I guess one of the analogies I have with it, too, is kind of to go off Justin's point there. Like, you have these bucks that are doing one thing all spring and summer. I mean, they got things popping out of their heads, antlers. It might be a buck's first or second set. So that I got to imagine that's got to be kind of weird, like a weird feeling. Maybe you haven't had antlers for a couple months. Now all of a sudden, like, I'm hitting shit on on trees and stuff. Like, what's going on? I got a feeling that's maybe part of it. But then they're going the whole summer. It's warm out. They drop their winter coat. They're getting that better look to them, a little thinner fur and all that stuff. And then they come into velvet coming off their antlers. That's got to be some sort of, like shit. Like what's going on here kind of thing. Maybe. I don't know. Something like that. And then you come into this October lull, what we're talking about. And with the hormones that are going on, I mean, this deer has went through how many changes in the last couple months. And now you're throwing on this change where it's literally telling his body that, I mean, you've been laying around lollygagging doing something for the last couple months. Now you're supposed to be turning aggressive. and do all that and start moving and start doing all this stuff. And it's like, I almost equate it to like a teenager hitting puberty. You know what I mean? Like a teenager, he doesn't know what's going on down there yet until all of a sudden, something happens, something moves. and it's like, something moves. What's this? You know what I mean? And it's like, my body's telling me to do this now? Like, what the hell? I almost feel like it could be that much of a shock to where, I don't know, I just feel like they're going through so many changes, and like you guys said, it might make them hunker down a little bit, or they move on. Like Justin said, a buck could come in from 30 miles away.
Yep.
Maybe this buck needs to move. I don't know.
I was sitting here thinking the whole time you was talking, the hormones, to me, that's triggering them. Well, they got to start eating. They got to start bulking up a little bit, because just like we see during the rut, I mean, a deer can lose 30 pounds during the rut, if not more. Midwest depends on how much chasing and everything. So I mean, I'm like you. Their hormones is what's changing that pattern, and that's why the aggression. That's when them bachelor bucks break up, kind of start. Hey, this is my home turf.
That's exactly right. They're going from being homeboys for the last couple months into now their bodies are telling them they have to fight.
Yeah.
Or they have to start kicking each other out of here. So they're losing their best friend. So really, it could be a sentimental thing. I don't know. Something like that. I mean, we could be talking about sort of blue in the face, but that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm not going to lie to you. Growing up, though, before I was kind of new, this learning thing that, you evolve into this different stuff. Like, people say October lull, and I'm like, oh yeah, the deer literally just sit down and lay down under, a tree, and they don't move until they're supposed to, until a hot doe comes around in November.
Yes.
I literally thought that for the longest time. And now, being a little more educated, I guess, and learning, and I just feel like it's a little bit more than that. I don't think I think there are certain scenarios where deer will probably just, hunker down for a little bit. But picturing a deer laying down for days on end, I just don't think that happens.
No.
But I do believe that they will lay down and move after night. I do get that, but they're moving somewhere in the daylight. Whether you got to get tight to bedding, whether you got to get tight to cover, you got to find them. That's my biggest thing. So
yeah, I mean, he's getting out of his bed sometime during daylight. Now, whether you've got to be within 50 yards of that bed to see him, or whether he may travel. My biggest thing, one thing I think driving to the club is, what tree has he walked by today that I could have killed him in?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did I miss?
Yeah, even when he stands up at some point during the day, there's a tree close enough that I could have shot him from, is the way just my crazy brain works.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So I guess I want to do a kind of a hard transition here. You talked about you drew Kansas this year. So the first time you're like going to the Midwest, right, to hunt ever?
Yes. Other than I went to Ohio, I think 2 years.
Okay. So you're going to Kansas this year. So what tactics are you going to take to do, to go into Kansas? Are you like, do you feel like there's two different totally sets of tactics, like Southern and Northern, or Midwest and Southern? Like, do you think there's two different things or a couple different things, or are you going to be going in with your mindset, using the stuff that from the South, and you're going to, implement those in Kansas? Like, what's your game plan there?
I think I will try to do, like I said earlier, I'm a mock scrape. Or, for instance, this year in Ohio, I found a community scrape. As soon as I found the community scrape, I texted my dad and I said, I found them. And he sent back, what do you mean? I said, I will kill a deer right here before I leave this week. I hung that stand. The second day I sat in it, I shot a 140-inch 10-pointer.
Nice. So is that public land?
It's not public land, but the owner lets anybody and everybody hunt it.
Okay.
So it's one of those situations. Like the week before we got there was 10 people hunting this 150-acre lot.
Wow.
And then when we got there was 3 other guys that was hunting it also.
I got you. So it's
Damn.
basically public.
In a sense, that's why I tried to, like my buddy DJ, I was telling him, I was like, in a sense, it is like public, because the one guy that I met on like the second afternoon, I went and hung that stand once I found that mock scrape, and hung the stand. Next morning I walk in, he texts me, he's like, dude, you're sitting right under me. What do you mean I'm sitting right under you? Well, I was actually about 300 or 400 yards, but with my light coming through the woods, he thought I was right under him because he was on top of the ridge. But what I had found was these two ridges, they come down, and then there was like a bridge. It was almost like the way the land laid, there was two ridges that came together and formed this bridge, and then they had two huge drop-offs. So what these deer was doing was they was taking it like a bridge. They would walk that one ridge right across that bridge to the other. And this mock scrape was right in the middle of that bridge. And this deer that I shot, he actually came in, got downwind of the scrape, and was lip curling whenever I shot him.
Wow. What time of day was that?
This was 8 in the morning.
Okay, so it was like first thing in the morning. Was it rut then? Pre-rut or? Okay, I got you. So I mean, I guess going to that Kansas, are you hunting public or private in Kansas?
I'll be hunting private.
Okay, so you're going into an area where, I'm guessing it's probably some sort of like, there's not gonna be a lot of pressure. I'm gonna guess. You won't have probably 10 other guys hunting it. I'm guessing. Right.
Yeah. It shouldn't be, a lot of pressure. It's a farmer, which imagine that. He either owns or leases a ton of farms, and great guy. I've actually went out there duck hunting. Went out there this January duck hunting with him, just kind of to set up to see where I might try to hunt come this fall if I got drawn. But
yep.
Yeah, I'd probably do that. I say I'll take my same tactics. To me, I'm a golfer as well, and if you can't adapt to the circumstances, you're never going to make it, is the way I've always felt.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know, Justin, you could probably, attest to it. You've hunted Kansas before, and I mean, we live in the Midwest too, but I can't speak for hunting in the South. So if I was to go in the South, I guess I'd be trying to do the same thing that I know, because that's what I know. And then, like you said, adapt to it. But I've been in Kansas the last 6 years hunting there, and where we're at, I don't know where you're going. The deer are so nomadic, like they are literally caribou. I feel like the deer does not know where he's going until he gets there. He's like, oh shit, like I'm here. Like it's so nomadic. But where we're at, it's wide open. I've said it before. You can see your dog run away for 2 days, stand on a beer can. You can watch him run for another day. So it's cattle country, but there's giants. There's big deer. My thing, I think, is to try to find obviously food sources, but try to find some good bedding. And I know that's very broad, and everybody's like, oh, you would say that, but if you can get tight into some thick areas and find some definitive edge, I mean, you'd be in the chips. You'd be a good starting point anyway.
The last day I was there, we went into, there are rivers that's ankle deep. It's nothing like a river around here, but we go sit on this river. Within 30 minutes, we tag out on mallards. So I jump up and I was like, hey, I'm going to look for sheds, because it was actually one of the farms that, he mentioned this would be a farm you may hunt when you come out here. I jumped up, went looking for sheds / trying to see deer trail sign, maybe something that I might like for when I come back. Like you're talking about, you can see forever. I come out of this little thicket where I had just found a pretty decent shed, and I look up and there's like 40 deer sitting out in this field. So I just kind of get down in that sage grass and just crawl all the way up to the fence. And I come up and I'm trying to like film these deer through my binoculars. And there's probably a 150, 160, along with 8 or 9 other, pretty decent bucks all sending out here just like there's nothing going on. So I sent it back to the farmer, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we've got that deer on camera. He's no big deal." A big deer to me is 130-inch deer, from the south. And I was tickled to death last year with the one I killed on our farm. He's a 120-inch 8-pointer. He is nothing special. He's got a little bit of mass, but he was one of our mature deer.
Yep.
And
did you ever age him?
I didn't. No.
Okay.
I honestly couldn't tell you even the score of the deer I actually shoot. I know how big deer are, from watching everybody else score their deer and stuff, but I've never officially hey, that's exactly a 126 and 7/8 deer.
Yep. You got a good idea. You can look at it and be like, I'm in the ballpark here.
Yep.
And I agree with you, 130-inch buck around here, that's a good buck. And that's what a lot of guys around here are trying to strive for, a 3-4-year-old right around that same range. But like what you're saying, that's probably your top 10% of your bucks, is that Pope and Young range. So that's, I get it. I mean, Mark Drury kills 180s because that's his 125-inch deer to us, so it's all relative. I get it. Justin kills 230-inch deer because where he's at, that's relative to him.
Exactly. And Michael Waddell with Bone Collector, he did an episode in Booger Bottom, and to me, the whole hunting world has got too big into, well, you didn't shoot a 180-inch deer, so you don't even know what you're talking about. Or, they don't. Waddell, in his episode, this, 100-inch 8-pointer steps out, and he smokes him. And he turns around and finds him. He's like, "Hey, where I come from, if it's got 8 points, you shoot it." And I can relate being from Georgia. And my mindset growing up was, hey, if it's got 8 points, I'm shooting it. But now, now I have grown to where I am trying, now it's more, can I kill a mature deer? Again, I don't really care about the inches, but is he a full mature deer? And I think that's it. But going back to what I was going to say, I wish the hunting world wouldn't classify everything as inches. And
it's tough.
You had a podcast a while back where you talked about you killed that buck in Iowa, which was a stud. You turned right around and go to Kansas and killed a 120-inch 8-pointer, and you caught grief over that. But then, like you said, you was in the moment. That's the deer you was going to shoot. You was excited about it. When I watched that episode, I never once thought, well, God, why did he shoot that deer? He just killed a giant 2 episodes before this.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that's where things have went wrong.
Yeah, and we talk about it all the time, and that's something Justin and I get from a lot of listeners is we appreciate that you guys, don't care what, you don't shame other hunters. We're the first ones, and I'm speaking for Justin here too. He can speak after I'm done. But we're the first ones to call you and be like, or, write you on IG like, dude, nice buck, whatever. And that's just how I was brought up, and it's I'm not trying to, and I don't want to sound like I'm trying to justify because I want to go out and shoot a lesser deer. Like, that's not what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
Everybody's got different goals. If your goals are to shoot, bigger racks and go for trophies, more power to you. That's great. That's fine. I'm just out there looking for memories, having a good time. And that day when I shot that deer in Kansas, that was an unbelievable day to me. Like, that day will go down in history. Casey and I shot 2 bucks in one day. To do that, regardless the size, regardless the age of them, it was an unbelievable hunt. I was in the stand 6 minutes, and who doesn't like killing deer?
Yep.
And it's just, I'll never forget that day, and I'll never go back and look and say, man, I really should have held out for a different deer. And it's just, I'm not about that. Like, I do want to kill big deer. Don't get me wrong. Like, they fascinate me, but learning more about whitetails and learning how they live and how they they do things, like that's fascinating, more fascinating to me, and for me to go here, I've talked to Justin about it all the time, like around here trying to kill, a Pope and Young buck it gets me going. Like I shake in my freaking boots when a 125-inch 2-year-old or 3-year-old comes out. When I shot the 186 in Iowa, like I mean, I think I closed my eyes and pulled the trigger. Like honestly, like it's the same amount of excitement as I get here than I did there. So if I ever lose that here in Michigan, in which I hope I don't, then that's when I like really start thinking like, what am I doing? I'm doing this for the wrong reasons.
Yep.
I need to rethink things. So, I mean, that's where I'm coming from. Justin can speak for himself too.
No, you're exactly right. It's just relative to where you are and what's available. It's even when I moved to Iowa, like I didn't have a goal of shooting a 150-inch deer. Like I didn't say, heck yeah, first year in Iowa, I'm holding out for a 150. Like I'm holding out for the first one that walks in range that's not a 3-year-old. And the very first, and that's what happened to me. My very first hunt was October 11th, 2018. Cooper was filming me, and it was when we had that beautiful little 8-point, and he wasn't little. It was just he was a young deer. That's why I say little, but he walked across the river, gave me a 10-yard shot, and made scrapes for 15 minutes. I had him all afternoon, and he bedded on a little oak ridge 50 yards behind me, and I'm like, that's the first deer I'm seeing in Iowa. It's bigger than anything I've ever seen in New York. Like, do I want to end my season with the first deer I'm seeing? And I was like, no, this deer's young. It's a beautiful buck. Like, people tore me up over it. It was like, Hunting Public shoots that deer all day long. I'm like, well, that's fine. I'm not nothing against them if they do. I don't want to shoot that deer. Suck it. So yeah. I was just like, it's my choice. It's your choice, depending on where you are, how you hunt. If it's, I don't care. I don't know. This gets me fired up because it's such a bullshit. It's such bullshit, really. Like everybody gives everybody so many problems, and it's like you get guys like us who talk about it and say, "Hey, you do you, man," and we all agree. But the reality is, there's probably more people that would crucify you over making that decision because they're like, "Oh, well, that deer's not 6.5, and they don't reach full potential." I'm like, okay, come down here and hunt public land. Like, let's go to Iowa. Let's go to Georgia. I don't care where you want to go. Let's hunt by your standards in a different place when you only have 10 days to hunt. Let's see how you act and what you say then.
Exactly. I love this. Amen.
Yeah. And it's we're all competitive people. That's by human nature. You have competitiveness in you, whether you believe it or not. But my competitive nature is competitiveness with myself and goal oriented. And, I never once said I need to kill a bigger deer than Justin. Like, or if he kills 3 bucks in a year, I never be like, shit, I got to kill a buck now, and if I do, it's just because him and I might have some razzing against each other, but it's never like trying to outdo you.
Yep,
like my dad can beat up your dad. You know what I mean? It's just like one upper, like, hey, my dad can beat up your dad, kind of thing. So I agree though, man, like the hazing, the hunter on hunter hazing and hatred is just, it's sickening. It makes it not fun. And there's guys around here that I live around it that, the first thing they ask you is, how many deer do you have on the wall? I mean, who gives a fuck? Like, really, I really don't care. I know those deer and I know it's kind of, a lot of people say it, but like when I die, those deer, there's never be nothing, they're probably gonna be thrown away. You know what I mean? Like, but I like looking at them and remembering those memories, and regardless of how many I have on there and how big they are, so.
My wife keeps telling me she's going to sell them to Crackle Barrel.
There you go.
But, I mean, I killed 5 bucks last year and 4 8-pointers and a 10-pointer, and I caught grief on nearly all of them. Even though Ohio deer, which was it's my biggest bow kill ever, And I was so pumped and excited about it. And they're like, "Oh, you went to Ohio and that's what you killed?" It's like, dude, this was a humongous bodied deer. He's got tons of mass, tons of sticker. He was a great deer. And as soon as he stepped out, my heart completely stopped. And when I shot him, I couldn't even get out of the stand. Like, the buddy that went with me, I told him about this scrape. I said, "You got to get in here with me because these bucks are in here." And I could see him. And we watched the deer crash, and this other little 8-pointer come in. He shot it, and he actually surprised me that he shot it. But, like, once he shot it, he come over the stand. He's like, "Let's go get your deer." I was like, "I can't climb down. I'm still tore up." But,
yeah, I mean,
that's just like, I mean, I shot a little 8-pointer opening day of Alabama with my 4-year-old in the ground blind. And I shot it. Everybody's like, "Yeah, what'd you shoot that deer for?" Well, one, that's the biggest deer I have on camera at my house. And two, the memories I just made with that 4-year-old, when he called his mama and couldn't even talk, like, that was worth. I wish I'd have had cameras. And this is what's got me into filming, is all the memories that I've made the past few years. Now with my son coming up, I want to learn the filming. Just when he gets old enough to hunt, I'll probably never hunt again. I will film him because I want to capture that moment, that excitement, that I can't even talk to my mom because my dad just shot a deer moment.
Yep. That's cool, man, because that's just that hunting heritage and passing it down, man. Like, that's cool to hear. Like, I would never want anybody to stop hunting, but I totally get where you're coming from. Those memories are awesome, and even my daughter will be 3 in August. I hope she wants to hunt one day. I'm not gonna force her to do it, but even my wife, she got into bow hunting when I met her. I got her into bow hunting in like 2009. She rifle hunted her whole life, but got into bow hunting, and when she killed her first couple bucks with her bow, I remember those moments. Like, that was just as exciting for me as it was, me pulling the trigger. So I totally get it.
My little 3-year-old, or he'll be 5 in a few days, but at 3 years old, I would put all my turkey gear on, grab my, shotgun, throw him on my shoulders, and in 1 week, like, we put 11.1 miles by my little GPS tracker. And he watched us kill 7 birds as a 3-year-old.
Wow. That's awesome.
He messed up one turkey, and me and him went by ourselves, and I called this bird. It took this bird forever to come up there, and he just zigzag in the woods, gobbling his head off. And he finally gets behind this blown over tree, and he's walking. When he comes out from behind it, I'm going to bust him. And my son reaches down and starts, like, scratching in the leaves. And the bird takes off, and I spin around. I'm like, "Briar, what did you do that for?" And he's like, "Sorry, Dad, I just wanted to help you." Because he had watched me raking the leaves to sound like a turkey. And instantly, like, the anger that flew over me so fast just left me. I mean, He's 3 years old, and he already understood that, hey, this raking in the leaves is helping my dad. And that's what he thought.
That's cool, man.
And
they're sponges, man. They're sponges.
Yes. And I am very fortunate with him. Like, my other son, he's only 1, so he's not got to experience any of this with me yet. But the soon-to-be 5-year-old, all he does is watch hunting. All he does is make the babysitter hunt all day long. So I'm pretty excited for him to get a little older.
Yeah, that is sweet, man. Sorry, I just lost power. So I'm sitting in the dark now. We got a crazy thunderstorm going over us. So, that's weird. No, but that's neat. Like, the whole tradition and getting your kids into that, man, is turkey hunting's a good thing to get your kids into first, to kind of, like, because it's kind of a social event in a way. You're not sitting there for hours on end.
A little more action packed.
Yeah, a little more action packed. And the birds, they're responding to you. They're talking. So it's like very, very not controversial, but, conversational in a way from hunter to turkey. So it's really cool.
But the coolest hunt this year was my cameraman, DJ. His son was 5, and we called up like 6 different birds because as a 5-year-old, he's not big enough to hold, like, to move around the gun. So, he's on a shooting stick, and unless the bird walks in front of him, he just can't shoot it. And the sixth bird we caught up, he shot this bird at like 32 yards and just cold hammered him as a 5-year-old. And I'll never forget that hunt. Like, that was one of the greatest of my life already. And it wasn't even my kid.
That's awesome. Well, cool, man. We're coming up on an hour here, and I want to cut you loose here. I got to get back to work.
Me too.
And I know you got to do some stuff as well. I appreciate you coming on and doing this, man. It was a really cool conversation, and just kind of learning something from where Justin and I've never really been to hunt, so that's pretty cool.
Yep, yeah. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, I mean, spread the word as much as you can. I appreciate that, and we'll have to do this again. Maybe this get back on after your Kansas hunt, after you kill a 200-inch in Kansas. That'd be great.
I hope so.
Well, cool, man. Stay in touch, and thank you very much.
Thank you all.